Give it up for Elaine Weeks.
Woohoo!
Thank you. Good evening. Right where you are sitting or standing, elk, deer, bear, and wild turkey once roamed. And in the Detroit River, trumpeter swans once swam. A band of native Aboriginals had a small settlement along the river at the foot of present-day Sprucewood Avenue. Ojibwe, or Chippewa, comes from the Algonquin word Ojibwe, to pucker, and refers to the distinctive puckered seam of Ojibwe moccasins. 1701. The commandant of the new fort of Detroit describes this area. There are so many swans that the rushes among which they are massed might be taken for lilies. The golden pheasant or greater prairie chicken, the quail, the partridge, the woodcock, the passenger pigeon swarm in the woods and cover the open country, intersected and broken by groves of full-grown forest trees, which form a charming prospect, which of itself might sweeten the melancholy tedium of solitude. 1828. There is grouse in the neighborhood of Sandwich, though not very common. It is confined to the plains and is of the most exquisite flavor. The eastern race of the elk is now extinct. 1884. The last local trumpeter swan is shot on Lake St. Clair. Much of the larger wildlife is gone, and passenger pigeons are on their steep decline towards extinction. 1892. The Dominion botanist for Canada visits this area and discovers many new plants. He proclaims Ojibwe as a garden of rarities and the eastern extension of the prairie flora. 1897. The last local record for the greater prairie chicken is a female bird shot on Fighting Island. There are 156,750 acres of forest remaining in Essex County. The Ojibwe Post Office is established this year. 1913. Ojibwe is incorporated as a town. The United States Steel Corporation purchases 1,400 acres in the area for a huge steel plant. 1918. World War I stops the creation of the plant, but the land is readied for development with the installation of concrete, storm sewers, and ditches. Ojibwe is prepared to become a company town, and plans are drawn for major residential growth. 1937. The Depression kills the project, and the town's population never exceeds 100. The Dominion Steel and Coal Company purchases the property, and some steel is produced. 1940s. Ojibwe is used as a testing ground for World War II military vehicles. 1955. Only 11,021 acres of forest remain in Essex County. 1957. The city of Windsor acquires Ojibwe Park from the Canadian Salt Company in exchange for a mineral rights beneath the Malden landfill site, even though the park was located outside the city limits in the town of Ojibwe. Prior to this time, the park area was known as Yawkey Bush, named after a family that settled in the area in the 1800s. 1958, City Council adopts the following resolution: that the 100-acre park in Ojibwe be preserved as a natural park and woodland area, and the Commissioner of Parks and Recreation be instructed to plan for its use as a public picnic and family recreational area only. This is further reinforced by Council's declaration that the park is intended to be maintained as a natural park. 1961, Ojibwe Park is formally declared. 1965, a large block of prairie is used for development of the Windsor Raceway. 1968, a 20-ton tugboat named Maudie, built in Windsor in 1921, is moved to Ojibwe Park and placed next to the creek to be used as a play structure for children. It remains in the park until 1990. 1979, the local population of northern bobwhite is killed off by severe winter storms. 1987, Black Oak Heritage Park is acquired as part of the City of Windsor's purchase of lands from the Canadian Salt Company. A portion of the land, which included the most significant woodland, is set aside for the park. 1990, land for the tall grass Prairie Heritage Park is purchased by the Ontario Heritage Foundation. 1991, Ojibwe Park is expanded to include adjacent woodland formerly owned by the Windsor Raceway. Funding for the Joy Woods acquisition is provided by the Nature Conservancy of Canada. The park now totals 164 acres in size. 1999, the City of Windsor announces a plan to acquire Spring Garden, the largest unprotected portion of the Ojibwe Prairie Remnants area of natural and scientific interest. 2001, Windsor's last piece of natural shoreline, Ojibwe Shores, is scheduled for destruction. With over 16 hectares of woodlot, a marshy pond, and 426 meters of natural Detroit River shoreline, Ojibwe Shores is an ecological gem on an otherwise heavily developed Detroit River. It is zoned for heavy industrial port use, and its natural features and ecological benefits are threatened. 2007, Coco Paving applies to construct 11 commercial buildings, 2 roads, and associated parking on its property next to Ojibwe Park. Eastern fox snake, Butler's garter snake, dense blazing star, and willow leaf aster are known to occur within the construction area. Windsor City Council approves the Big Box project. 2008, the final block of the 300-acre Spring Garden natural area is acquired by the city with funding help from the Federal Habitat Stewardship Program. Ojibwe Park Complex harbors more rare species than any other park in Ontario, yet is one of the Earth's most endangered plant communities. 2010, preparations begin for the construction of Windsor-Essex Parkway, which incorporates several acres of forested area immediately adjacent to Ojibwe Park Complex. 2013, the Windsor Port Authority wants to raise the forest along the City of Windsor's last stretch of natural shoreline, which is also a link to Ojibwe Park, because it hopes to land a contract to store dirt for the new Detroit River Bridge. Meanwhile, Coco Paving submits a proposal under a rarely used clause of Ontario's Endangered Species Act that allows development in protected areas subject to the proponent providing benefits that exceed the adverse effects on several listed plant and snake species. 2035, the flora and fauna in Ojibwe Park Complex, which is now completely surrounded by commercial and residential development and bordered by highways, are killed by the latest super drought. If you are at all concerned about climate change, global warming, overdevelopment, or threatened rare species, the power is in your hands. Please support the creation of a national urban park for Ojibwe tonight. You can sign the petition. The booth is right over there. Thank you very much.